off with you here on The Retirement Solution with John Hicks. I'm Heather Branch here with John to ask him questions about your money and everything you work so hard to save. More importantly, things about what you can be doing now to better prepare yourself as you get closer to or perhaps are already in retirement. 502-317-0840 is the number you can dial to set a time to meet with John and his team about your own personal savings plan. Again, it's 502-317-0840 and anytime at retirementsolutionradio.com. How are you, Mr. Hicks?
I'm awake.
Okay.
That's a starting point.
Sure is.
You know, usually on the weekends, I try to get an extra 20 minutes of sleep. My oldest gets the bus.
How old are your girls?
Yeah. So the oldest is 12. She's in 6th grade.
Okay.
The youngest is in 1st grade.
Okay.
So we have a situation in our house where the oldest, I don't know, she gets very verklempt. She's very worried about school in the mornings.
Is she?
She gets very anxious, and so she wants to take the bus because the bus comes to our house at like 6:33 in the morning.
So
5 days a week.
Volunteers
She
herself.
does. She does. She gets up super early. Wow. You know, Mama will get up a little bit before me and make sure that, you know, she's had some breakfast and whatnot. And then she's on the bus at 6:30. And then I get the little one together. And then we usually get her to school about an hour later, around 7:30.
Right.
So the weekends, I like to pretend that I get to sleep in a little bit.
How's that working out for you?
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work so much. So that's why I said at least I'm awake today. I had a little bit of extra coffee. That's a good starting point.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to wake up as the day progresses.
Excellent.
Depends on which questions you ask me.
I have
If you ask me questions about Ukraine, Ukraine not weak, Ukraine strong. We'll be there.
You know,
feeling it.
You do wonder and worry whether or not we should even go there with the whole what's happening in Europe conversation because our people just so... Well, it's... Again,
it was from Seinfeld.
Exactly.
That's why I remember Ukraine not weak, Ukraine strong. I tell you what, though, you know what I wish we had in this country? I wish we had a president that acted like theirs. The guy says, I don't need a flight out of here. I need someone to fly in me some ammo.
I need ammunition. That was a mic drop moment.
I love that. I love that guy. I would vote him into presidency of the United States if he gets through the situation. I mean, that guy is that's the kind of hero that we all look up to, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that guy. So I have no idea what his political belief system is, but as a human being, he is fighting for what he believes in to be the right thing. And I think that there's almost nothing more attractive than that because it's not about politics. It's not about crap and bureaucracy.
Yep.
It's about, hey, they put me here for a reason, and I'm not going to squander this opportunity to make these people understand, hey, I'm here for you. I would like to see the administration after this interesting week after this, State of the Union.
Yeah.
I'd like to see something in this administration have a backbone. It'd be nice.
It's definitely been inspiring to see the stories that have come out, not just from the president of Ukraine, but the civilians there and the rallying that's happening. And,
love it.
You know, you hate that there has to be a tragedy to see this kind of triumph from these people, but... You know, was it Mr. Rogers that said, look for the helpers, right?
Yeah, I think often that's the way it happens, though. You almost you can't see the light if you're not aware of darkness. And I think that sometimes that's what happens here. I think that a lot of people now, we're looking at the market in different ways, right? You know, the market's been up for 13 years. Now we're seeing a little bit of some up and down. So some people are looking for a little protection. I understand that. With Ukraine, it's a little bit more political than that. But, you know, they've had some positivity. That westernization is what Putin has been afraid of.
Right.
Because it potentially undermines his authoritarian regime, his one person ruling the planet oligarchy. So it'll be nice to see if we can maybe find some resolve here.
You bring up the effects, the trickle-down effect, the idea of what's going on here in the States as the entire world continues to react to not just everything happening in Europe, but just all around the world all the time. It's never ending this past couple of years.
Sure.
So even though the stock market continues to struggle with volatility, thinking about the things that you do in your offices working to help your clients, this age group of folks, as they get near their retirement goal line, is it still the best bet when it comes to generating income for retirement? That's what was being talked about in this article in the Wall Street Journal. They were saying that the threat of interest rate hikes by the Fed is making bonds and cash much less attractive. but are stocks really the only place where we could possibly make money right now in a retirement plan? What are you telling folks with these kinds of questions?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think we've all heard, and I think we've all been aware, right? The United States has been in a growth phase really since the 1930s. I mean, we've become a world power over all these years. And so typically you look at the market going up. Now, the one issue, though, is that, when we talk about what we're talking about on the show about retirement, right? So it's great that the market goes up. It is not necessarily a very good place to get income from. And why is that? Well, because it's very volatile,
right.
And I think that's probably the biggest issue. So I do see, however, Heather, I see a lot of people that they're like, man, John, I don't want to lose money in bonds and cash because I'm losing money in cash because the inflation's 7%, So I've been in the market and now they're feeling very uncomfortable. They're like, man, I've been like 70, 80, 90% in the market. Now the market's getting a little weird. I don't know what's going to go on. I want to retire in the next 2 or 3 years. I understand. But here's what we have to really gather in this situation. The market is not a very good vehicle to produce income. Now, why do I say that? Well, unless you're only spending dividends, you actually have to sell those mutual funds or sell a portion of those stocks in order to create an income stream for you to live off of.
Right.
There are so much better and more efficient ways to produce an income that you don't have to have the downside risk. So for instance, Heather, here's a lot of the things that our clients kind of find themselves gravitating to.
Okay.
Once they learn about them, right? A lot of these things people aren't even aware of. There's
right.
like, well, John, I've had really good mutual funds and my 401k is providing, Fidelity or Vanguard or whatever, but I don't even know the crap you're talking about, dude. Well, here's what I would say. It's always good to find out what all of the options are so you can make a good decision. But the types of things that we're using for our clientele to produce income, we can use structured notes. And many of these things, what it is that where you get a bank to insure a good portion of your principal. So it might be able to even back up 50% of the downside for you, but it's going to give you an income often between 6 and 10%. And you can spend that money. So if you get 50% downside protection and you can spend 6 to 10%, isn't that a little bit better than a market that might be going down? Some people say yes. You can use preferred stocks. And this is one of those things that used to be a really big part of people's portfolios. And recently, I very rarely see them anymore. But preferred stocks, they are often much less volatile than regular stocks and mutual funds, but they often give you an income stream and they just pay like a dividend. And often these things are paying between 4.5% to maybe 7.5%. So again, now we've just talked about two things where they're a lot less volatile, but they're creating income. You don't have to sell them in order to generate your income stream. But then one of the bigger things that I've been educating people on for a long time now is this concept called insured indexing, Heather. And a lot of people have never even heard of this.
Okay.
But it's where you can go to a bank, you can get a CD that does this. You can go to an insurance company and they'll insure your money. You can even go to a trust department and they'll essentially do their version of insuring it. They call it collateralization. Okay. But basically, if things go wrong, someone else is going to pay you back. That's the whole point, right? But the idea of insured indexing is when you can put your money with a company or a bank or an insurance company and they will guarantee you cannot lose your principal, first and foremost. But instead of paying you a really crappy interest rate of 1% or 1.5%, instead, they give you a portion of the upside of the market. So for instance, last year, the stock market ended up going up like 23%, 24%. I mean, no one saw it coming. But if you had something like this where your principal was protected, but you got up to 50% of the upside, you would have made 13% last year on very safe money. Now, that's not so bad. Now, can that produce a better income? Well, absolutely it can. Can it actually also be much better than bonds in our portfolio? Well, potentially. So when you look at these types of things, there's all kinds of things from structured notes to preferred stocks, insured indexing accounts, because the main thing we're looking for is we want to control the downside. If we can control losing money so that we can't do that, the numbers work out much better for us. But insured indexing is one of the things that people have really liked because it's kind of like you started the question off with. Everyone's just pumping their money into the market. They're just praying the market goes up, but there's a lot of risk there. If instead, hey, we don't get all of it, let's say we get 40 to 70% of the upside of the market, well, that's not so bad if we have zero risk. But the main thing is that we can produce a better income. So that's the one thing I want people to be aware of. Even though your 401k or your mutual funds can't often produce these things. These are available. These are readily available, and lots of people have decided that it's a better way for them to produce income. So if you're thinking about how are you going to produce an income in retirement when you're tired of working, then you might want to look at those other strategies. They might be more, I guess, efficient for your situation.
But again, so many people have no idea that these options are available.
Sure. I mean, it's just because, they don't offer to the 401k, right?
Right.
They don't offer them at Vanguard because Vanguard has their one thing. And I love Jack Bogle, who founded Vanguard. Yeah. But Jack Bogle's thing, hey, I want to let you be in the market and I just want to make it cheap. Well, that's great. But if the market stinks for a while, like it did during the .com bust, well, then that's not a good situation.
Right.
So if instead of losing 50%, like a lot of people did in 2000, 2001, and 2002 by the time everything fell apart, if instead they just didn't have any losses, that would have been a lot better off. So that's the type of thing that insured indexing does. And again, it's not product-based. It's just a concept. And if that works, you just want to find out what is better for you. Is it a bank to do it for you? Is it a trust department? Or is it an insurance company? It doesn't really matter as long as that is a fit for your portfolio.
Have questions for John? Drop us an email at retirementsolutionradio.com.
J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Integrity Financial Planning Inc. is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through John Hicks, NPN number 2293473.